Hello, everyone. This is Violet Lee, your Tai Chi examiner. And today I have the pleasure and honor to interview Mr. Malik Cadwell. And Mr. Malik Cadwell was recommended highly by Dr. Peter Wen, who is the professor at Harvard Medical School and who is also the co-organizer and sponsor of the great conference coming in September. The conference is called Science of Tai Chi and Qigong, and regarding the whole person health. So with that, and I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Cadwell, and let him share some of the stories with us, and then you'll be surprised, what we're going to learn together, right? And thank you, Mr. Cadwell, for joining us today. And can you just first tell us a little bit about yourself, and were you born in 1972, and where were you born?
Actually, I was born in 1971 in
Oh, I'm so
Jersey.
sorry.
I was born at the end of the year. I was born right before Halloween in 71. So yes, I started the martial arts in 1979 in Camden, New Jersey, which is right across the river from Philadelphia. And I was interested in Bruce Lee movies. My dad took me to see Enter the Dragon, and I was hooked. I wanted to learn martial arts. And so we found a karate school. And in our area, Goju Karate was the predominant martial art. So I started in Goju Karate when I was 7, and started doing tournaments and competing around South Jersey, Philadelphia. Um, but when I was 10 years old, I saw a demonstration of a martial art I had never seen before that totally blew my mind, which was called Aikido. And the first time I saw Aikido, I was totally fascinated with the fluid circular movement. And so I've asked my dad, we found a school, which was about 10 minutes away. And my dad was in the military. He was in the Air Force. So he was very interested in martial arts. And in the Air Force, he had been an air policeman. So he actually learned Chin-Na and Aikido and restraints. And so when we went to the Aikido school, Sensei Robert Danza was in the Air Force as well. And he had taught at McGuire Air Force Base. And what I didn't know at the time was he was the first American to get a black belt directly from the founder of Aikido. So he was stationed in Tokyo in the 50s and got his black belt in judo in 1957. Then in 1959, he got his black belt in Aikido directly from O-Sensei.
Wonderful. I wish I started my journey of the martial art like you, and I started really late. And yeah,
never
so
too late.
that's very true. I met somebody who started in her 70s. And then when I interviewed her, she was 99 years old, and she could kick really high. I was like, it was amazing, yes. But still, I admire you, had an interest and also had an opportunity to start your journey so early. And I was one time told by an Aikido teacher, I think it's Mr. Kaufman, Sifu Kaufman, in Durham, South Carolina. And he also teaches Tai Chi. He says Aikido actually learn a lot, and from the Chinese Tai Chi Chuan. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yes, yes, yes. The founder of Aikido traveled through China and talked about the balance of fire and water, and always described this circular movement, this effortless movement in harmony with the universe. And Ki is the Japanese pronunciation of Chi, right? And Do is the Tao. So the concepts of Taoism and the same principles of Tai Chi flow all through Aikido.
Wonderful. So I thought it's a great, you had the opportunity and saw it, and sometimes people will also think, especially young people, they want really fast, kung fu type of things. But you actually had that capability, appreciate soft, flowy style of martial art. That's great. But when did you actually start learning Tai Chi Chuan?
Now, when I was in college, I was kind of, again, interested in philosophy and religion. And I found a Chinese bookstore in Evanston, Illinois. And I started getting magazines. I started getting Chi magazine. And I actually got my first set of marble Baoding balls. And
Wow.
so I was interested in Qigong because, of course, with Aikido, we study Qi and, moving our internal energy. And so right after college, I came back to the Philadelphia area, and I was living in Philadelphia and stopped in a health food store, and I saw flyers for a Tai Chi class in the park, and stopped by the park, and it turned out, the Sifu was welcoming. He said, "Yeah, come on, jump in." And so after a few sessions, I was doing some push hands, and Sifu said, "What did you study before?" And I said, "Goju, karate, and Aikido." And he said, "With who?" And when I told him my senseis, he said, "I saw Sensei Danza do a demo when I was 14, and that got me interested in martial arts. And then I started in Goju karate." And then he started training in Chinese martial arts with S.L. Martin, then went to Hong Kong, and then he studied with Adam Su. So my Sifu, his name is Chick Kadar Mason in Philadelphia, and our school is the Spirit Wind Internal Arts. So I started that practice in 1995 in the park. And I kind of quickly became an inside student because Sifu knew all my senseis.
Wow, isn't that interesting how all the different martial arts and all coming together, and many people first practice the external martial arts like Kung Fu and Jiu-Jitsu or whatever, and then later on, and they learned about internal martial art and find it very fascinating, and it's so profound, so deep. And speaking of college, I learned something about you. I don't know if it's true or not. You went to the college when you were only 14 years old.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Well,
yes. Well, at 12 years old, I became a junior Aikido instructor, and I was the kid that Sensei would take around and do demos at schools, and so I was really, I was focused in school. I wanted to be disciplined. So that year at 12 years old, I did the 6th and 7th grade the same year. Actually, when I was 11, I did 6th and 7th grade the same year. And I started high school when I was 12. And after the 10th grade, I started getting offers from colleges. And I got an offer from Simon's Rock Early College in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. And I had an opportunity to go there immediately. So that fall, I entered as a freshman when I was 14.
that's very interesting. A lot of time people say right brain and left brain, and but it seems you are strong at both brains. Right?
Well,
you can do something physical and really, really well. At the same time,
yes.
sorry, sounds you can also understand and how should I say, books very well, right?
Yes.
So that's unfair. When I think about myself in comparison with you, I just like, That's not fair. This guy is way too smart.
Oh no. Oh no. And you know, again, I give a lot of credit to my parents. My dad was, you know, from the military, really focused and disciplined. But my mom was a singer, and she actually traveled. She toured the world singing, and so I kind of grew up in the arts and on stage. And that same year, when I was 11, I actually had a choice to make between theater school and martial arts school. And since I had just become a junior instructor, I chose to stay with Aikido and continue teaching. And again, I was able to travel with Sensei. So, you know, I was really just fascinated with the martial arts and getting deeper into the practice. And I was one of those kids that would go to the school. I would go to the dojo in the morning and stay until the late afternoon. And between classes, Sensei would do ki exercises, and we would do Aikido exercises like the unbendable arm and building our ki. And so he took me to a demonstration of grandmasters at Temple University in Philadelphia with grandmasters from Japan and Korea doing Aikido and Hapkido and Ki, and really focusing on this internal energy. So I was just so fascinated with it. I wanted to just explore more. And Tai Chi and Qigong, you know, of course, was the ultimate destination. But I was also fortunate that Sifu taught Bagua. So at the end of our Tai Chi classes, we would do Bagua Qigong as well.
So besides Bagua and as far as Tai Chi and Qigong, and what other styles you have learned?
But we primarily practice Yang style.
Yang style.
Yes, yes. So the first form I learned was the Chen Manqing form, the 37 form in the park. So I spent really my first year or two focusing on that form, and then push hands, but then learned the Green Dragon sword. I learned started to incorporate the 24 form, and then the Lao Jia. So
excellent, excellent, Lao Jia. I guess you mean the Chen style. Yeah. And
yes.
most people in this country learn Chen Manqing style first because Professor Chen Manqing was the very first person brought Tai Chi Chuan to this country. So great. And
I'm in New Jersey and New York, so he was right in this area. So my teacher, my teacher
exactly.
New York.
Yeah. Professor Chen Manqing first went to New York, and he had a lot of students and followers in that area. And wonderful. So you learn so much and different lineage and styles and form. So what is your favorite practice? And or there are multiple.
Yes, it's multiple, and just kind of free flowing. People sometimes laugh at me just kind of living in my chi. So my practice sometimes will flow from Tai Chi, Qigong to Bagua, back to Tai Chi, and but again, a free flowing kind of just the ebb and flow of the practice. So sometimes it's just a very general practice. I live near Atlantic City, so sometimes I'll go near the beach and practice by the ocean in just a very relaxed but gentle way. But then there's times with my college students, you know, we go low and slow and then high with the crane. So we really focus the legs and really have a physical external practice. So there's times I really include that. But then I work with seniors as well. So there's times of just a very kind of easygoing, very gentle practice. And then I work with patients in the hospital. So sometimes just Qigong, and so parts of all of the practices. But I think sometimes just a free flow of the Tai Chi form of just waving hands like clouds and grasping the bird's tail and just kind of, again, just sometimes with the eyes closed and silk reeling and just, flowing, And, I think from Bagua, it really just kind of flow in and out of forms. So I really focus on forms for teaching, but for my own practice, I flow in and out and kind of mix and match. And
You know
sometimes,
what? I started doing that as well, and it's interesting. And I guess it's just um, in the moment.
yes,
You know, sometimes something just trigger me, and I will just go right in there. Is that how it is for you also?
yes, yes.
Okay.
There's times in the car, my hands are on the steering wheel, and then
Isn't that
I'm at
dangerous?
a red light, and I just I start
Okay,
to
okay.
circle. I mean, once I studied Bagua, any circle on the ground, so a manhole cover, I'd stop and circle walk. A planter around a tree, I'd stop and circle the tree. And I'm in an elevator and waving hands like clouds between floors. So
So do people around you think you are nuts?
quick on and off switch. So I flow and then and then sometimes relax. But then there's other times where again, martial artists, we notice each other, and sometimes you get that knowing wink, or you see someone else. There's times, actually, this happened not too long ago in New York. I was walking down the street, and a man was in front of his stoop, just waving hands like clouds, and just kind of smiled at each other, and he continued. And so again, that idea of just again really going with the flow, being like a leaf in a stream, and just kind of feeling it, and day to day, just feeling just that energy between people, and you know, even with when I see puppies and kittens, you feel that energy connection, and so again, yeah, I think it's a part of all my life.
Yeah, wonderful. Yes, I think and many people you have practiced Tai Chi and Qigong, you have not tried, and I tried, and it's wonderful feeling. And so you start teaching martial art at a very young age, and Aikido, right? At 12-year-old, you were teaching there, and then but when I understand it sometimes, especially when we're talking about the Qigong, it's Qigong is very broad.
Yes.
And in certain way, we can say Aikido is kind of a form of a Qigong because it focuses the Qi movement, nourishment, the balance, all that. But if we are just going back to the more how should I say, a narrow definition, say the Chinese Qigong. And when did you first teach them? And
Yes, in 2004, well, 2001, my main Aikido and karate sensei, Sensei Rayvon Jones, was diagnosed with cancer. And in
mm-hmm.
that, once he was diagnosed, he actually asked me to teach him Tai Chi form. And so our training became, very very private, personal. We still taught our regular Aikido and karate classes, but on other days, on Sundays, it was just the two of us. And we would, and I started to share the Tai Chi form with him. And just, deepen my own practice. But, again, it was just my honor to share with my sensei. And he passed away in 2004. Uh, and at that point, I actually became the heir, the Aikido inheritor. And so my focus from 2004 through 2008 really was on Aikido and kind of building the school. And in 2008, I was invited to one of the karate championships in Tokyo. And so I visited Tokyo, and also visited the Aikikai. So when I came back to New Jersey, um, a person I knew from one of the martial arts demos at Rutgers in Camden asked me to start teaching at Rutgers. And so he said, would you come teach at Rutgers? I said, sure. And so I sat down with the athletic director, and we just kind of started going through my background. And he said, wow, Tai Chi, we could really use a Tai Chi class. He said, would you teach Tai Chi in the athletics and recreation department? So I said, absolutely. So from spring break, from the middle of March, we started a Wednesday night Tai Chi class in the Rutgers Camden Athletics in the gym. And so we went from March until May when school ended. And, we sat down again, and the athletics director said, we had great feedback. We want to continue the Tai Chi class, but we would like to expand it. So could you do Tai Chi Monday and Wednesday evening? But since you teach other martial arts, could you teach another class on Tuesday and Thursday during the day? And I said, the Bagua, that Kung Fu sounds interesting. So, so in 2010, started teaching Tai Chi and Bagua at Rutgers and Camden.
Wow. And that's wonderful. And you also taught at a Temple University, right? And
Yeah.
how did that come about?
So again, being in the moment, living in the chi and letting things just kind of flow. I found out that they were looking for a self-defense instructor at Temple University in Philadelphia, which is 10 minutes from Camden. And so the program was called Upward Bound, which is a summer program for high school students, and they stay on campus over the summer. But in the evening, they have enrichment classes. So they had a choice between poetry and theater, dance, or martial arts. And so I started teaching self-defense. So it was, again, a bit of a mixture of all of our martial arts. Sensei Raybon really looked at a kind of idea of, again, having a traditional base, but being open-minded to new ideas and new practices. So our training and self-defense would kind of start with karate, but evolve into Aikido and the concepts of Taoism and Qi and understanding internal energy. And so the teenagers really responded, and we kept that program going at Temple for about 8 years. But once I was on campus, I went to one of the fall festivals that the Confucius Institute was hosting. And so when I met the director of the Confucius Institute, he says, oh, you teach martial arts at Upward Bound? He said, I taught at Upward Bound in Guam. He said, come to the office and have tea with me. And so then he invited me to teach martial arts with the Confucius Institute at Temple. Um, and the same thing happened at Rutgers. I was in the gym one day, and there was a bag in front of my locker. And so a person comes over and he says, oh, excuse me, I'm blocking your locker. He says, oh, you're a new face. What do you do? I said, oh, I teach the Tai Chi class. It's like, oh, really? Oh, I'm the associate chancellor. How would you like to teach my after school program? Sure. He said, meet me at Starbucks. So we sat down and had coffee. I started teaching after school programs at Rutgers. And then, so again, simultaneously, because the campuses were only 10 minutes apart, I was teaching at Rutgers in Camden. And then a few years later at Camden, the Tai Chi and Kung Fu classes converted into student clubs. So then my students, they started connecting with other student clubs. So they would connect with the International Students Club, the Asian Students Club, the Anime Students Club, and all those kids were interested in martial arts. And so we would do demos for Lunar New Year's. My kids from Rutgers would come over to Temple to do demos with me. And so folks from the Confucius Institute would send me out to places with international students. So I became the first martial artist to present for the World Affairs Council in Philadelphia. Um, and also from there, I started to present for the international students and scholars. And they asked me to present Tai Chi for the Welcome to Temple. for international students. And the same thing happened at Rutgers. So at Rutgers' 250th anniversary, that coincided with World Tai Chi Day. So they said, let World Tai Chi Day be the opening event of this Rutgers Day. So we just had amazing opportunities to share and to, as we met people and did demos, more people would say, wow, can you come join us? So this last year, this one, Grandmaster Lee, this one's a surprise for you because I didn't even put it on my resume yet, but I got an invitation from someone who had seen me do demonstrations at Temple. And she says, well, I'm with the Office of Executive Leadership and Global Partnership. And would you come to Chinatown in Philadelphia to do a demonstration of Tai Chi? We have some masters from China, and we'd like for you to demonstrate with them. And I said, sure, yeah, let's do it. And so I came over there, and before I knew it, they came out with cameras, and they said, this will be on TV in China because this is part of the Beijing 22 games. So I actually had the opportunity to demonstrate Tai Chi for Beijing 22.
Excellent. You know what? Your story is so encouraging, especially for me. And what do I mean by that? And about 8 years ago, I quit my day job as a IT project manager. And so I could spend more time doing what I like writing about Tai Chi and teaching Tai Chi. And so some of my friends ask me, so what is your marketing plan? I say, I don't have one. I don't know. I guess yeah, sometimes we probably share the same philosophy. We understand Tai Chi, it's very natural, and so things grow organically. And of course, there were times I was wondering myself, am I really made the right decision? And I like to share, right? But just hearing what you said, it's just a beautiful story and very encouraging. And I'm pretty sure there are a lot of Tai Chi Qigong instructors out there, and then they probably really appreciate your experience. And then I know some people they love the art very much, so they practice themselves, and they wondering, say, should I do more? Should I go on the route of teaching it? Yeah, give a try.
Yes.
Mr. Cadwell is a great example. Of course, Mr. Cadwell is also genius.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was go ahead. Sorry.
No, but there's times I always tell my students that there are times to take chances, to sometimes just say yes if someone says, wow, we would love for you to share martial arts with us. And sometimes it's just to show up and kind of just talk about the arts and maybe give a brief demo. And sometimes there's no money exchange, it's just a sharing. And that's how I ended up being part of the Olympics, to just show up and just say, yeah, sure, I would love to share. So I say embrace those opportunities. And sometimes when there are other opportunities where there might be a little cost, to say, yeah, let me try it. That's how I met Dr. Wayne.
I see. Very good. And Dr. Wen also told me, and you spend a lot of time working with how should I say, the underprivileged community. And can you share the stories there, and how did you start it, and your experience, and how different it is working with people underprivileged and versus students?
Yes. So I'm from Camden, New Jersey, and throughout the 80s and 90s, Camden really suffered with poverty and crime. substance abuse. And so during the time that I was at Northwestern, it was 88 to 92, I remember one of my friends came up to me with Time magazine, and on the cover it said Hell on Earth, Camden, New Jersey. And so my field, my degree was in counseling. So I got my degree in psychology and came home in counseling and started working with folks who were dealing with mental illness and substance abuse, and who were homeless, and incarcerated. And my older brother, I have one brother who's 10 years older than me. And during that time, he had a problem with substance abuse. So I tried to, just work with folks who were going through that same difficulty. And I worked with folks who were in the street. And I remember reading an article back in those days in the 90s. And I don't remember the article, but it said Aikido and Tai Chi are the counselor's arts. The idea of redirecting energy is perfect for counselors. And so I kind of, used that philosophy, but also used Aikido and Tai Chi for my own self-care, and just kind of gradually expanded. I was working inpatient in a behavioral health unit in a hospital, where we would have to do restraints and takedowns, and some of the nurses and staff had gotten injured. So people asked me for self-defense and ways that they could defend themselves without injuring a patient. And of course, Aikido and Tai Chi and Bagua are perfect for that. So it kind of became like a side class with some of the nurses, and some of the other technicians. And then, of course, at that same time, my sensei was diagnosed with cancer and asked me to teach Tai Chi. So I just kind of gradually started doing more teaching Tai Chi. And again, being from Camden, um, it was kind of a natural, the kids after school programs, the kids were, from this underserved, what we would call underprivileged, or, a very poverty stricken community. And I use martial arts as a way of not only teaching them practical self-defense and anger management and conflict resolution, but also ways of, healing themselves. And I try to use myself as an example of how that discipline from martial arts helped me avoid some of the pitfalls and some of the problems, like with gangs and drugs, and try to help others in the community. And so, working with after school programs and working with uh, churches. And at the same time, I started going from Rutgers up to Harvard for grand rounds in integrative medicine. I also started going up to Rutgers in Newark to share Tai Chi with folks in a program called the African American Brain Health Initiative. And so we were sharing Tai Chi and physical exercise with seniors, working with churches. And so I said, wow, Tai Chi can benefit kids who are dealing with peer pressure and, facing issues with substance abuse and gangs, but also seniors who are facing health challenges. And again, it's like, wow, it's the same practice. I can teach them the same form, or I can teach them the same breathing exercises and the same meditations, and find benefits. And I found that the kids kind of were more physically focused. So we would start more with self-defense and exercises, where the adults could understand the reasoning and the intellectual side of Qigong and the benefits, and then that would lead their bodies into the practice. So I just found that it was a way that people could take some control of their response to difficult circumstances, as martial arts was designed to help you in body, mind, and spirit to face any adversity, any challenge. And it was also ways that didn't cost a lot. So we could do free programs after school or at a community center or in the park. And so it was a great way to reach out to people that didn't have a lot of money. Um, or even if folks had insurance, now this was a separate a separate cost. It wasn't covered. So these were ways that Rutgers could say, wow, we connected to do an after school program. Um, And so, yeah, it became a natural extension. And again, just an expansion of not only my own practice, but just my understanding of Qi and how it connects with everyone.
Yeah, it sounds like your horizon just keep growing and growing, and then expand, and your outreach. And can you speak a little bit about your participation or your contribution in the science research regarding Tai Chi and Qigong?
Yes, well, at the when the pandemic started, all of the college campuses shut down the same day. So I got an email saying, "Don't come back to campus until further notice." So, and again, some of our classes still haven't returned. So during that time, I was just, in a in flux. I was in transition. I didn't know what was next, and but I was determined to continue teaching martial arts. And I looked and I saw that there was an opportunity to work with pediatric cancer patients, and it was in New York City. And I said, well, I lived in Queens when I was a kid. I started working with the Queens Public Library doing mindfulness and Qigong programs. So I said, yeah, going to New York, that's a no-brainer, like, sure. And so at that point, I connected with Memorial Sloan Kettering and became a mind-body therapist in integrative medicine. So using martial arts, pediatric patients and their families. So it turns out that my entire background comes into play. So many of the kids are the same age I was when I started karate. So we start with sometimes just a focused karate, Shaolin type of practice, just horse stance, just breathing, straight punch, basic blocks. But again, we use that as physical therapy. We use the breathing and meditation as and, mindfulness and mental counseling and therapy, but also with the parents dealing with their stress, their anxieties, um, dealing with our patients' pain and sleeplessness, or their fears and anxieties. And so the training in martial arts, uh, preparing your mind, body, and spirit for battle, as it were. I mean, again, this is a health battle. It's a health challenge. So the mentality is beneficial along with the physical exercise. Sometimes patients are motivated to get up and move around. So I had a kid the other day who was having a rough morning. But his parents and his little sister, they said, well, we want to get up, we want to do some Tai Chi. And so we got up and we started stretching and breathing. And then we started waving the hands like clouds. And we started grasping the bird's tail, pushing the knee, just moving and flowing. And our kid who was in the bed, next thing you know, he went from laying in the bed watching us to sitting up watching us to
Oh,
the floor, sitting up, participating, waving his hands like clouds, going through the movements, sitting on the edge of the bed. Um, and
it was a beautiful story.
thank
Yeah.
you. And again, just that connection of energy among family members, and being able to connect that. And sometimes people just see, sometimes my patients don't feel well enough to participate. So sometimes I'll give them a demonstration and they feel soothed, or they feel like it's calming and just a soothing practice.
It's wonderful. I think that you really internalize Tai Chi Chuan, because I see how you can move around like water, and in your teaching method, in your counseling skill, and you blend everything well together. And that's awesome. That's really great. And So you're going to present at this great conference we mentioned, right, at the beginning of the interview. And this is the Science of the Tai Chi and Qigong as a Whole Person Health Conference. And this is coming in September and hosted by OSHA Center for Integrative Medicine and Harvard Medical School. And can you, without giving away the whole thing, can you just give us a little bit highlight? What are you going to address? And thank you.
Sure. I guess, yeah, like you said, everything for me is integrated. So it's a part of my life story because, again, I'm from, when we talk about underprivileged, underserved areas, I came from, what was considered the worst one in the country. And then working with MSK, I work in Harlem. I do programs reaching out to communities there. And again, reaching out to folks at every age and looking at how martial arts, Tai Chi and Qigong are universal because we are all human beings. We all have Qi, and when we are able to become aware of it and understand it and connect it with each other, then of course there's nowhere we can't go. There's no person we can't, connect with. And so I've just tried to use that and to go to places where, just like the Tao Te Ching says, to be water. And again, not only the fluidity of water, but I always love the second half of the quote that says, water benefits everyone. It goes to the low and dark places that men are loath to go and cleanses and purifies. So again, I'm from one of those places that people are loath to go. And so I feel I can go anywhere to share that message and to share our practice. So yeah, it's a little bit of a summation, but to talk about my journey from Camden to, other places to share this martial art.
Excellent. And I'll be there and I will be attending the conference. And for sure, I want to listen to your speech and really looking forward to it. And for everyone watching this video or reading my article, and if you have not registered for the conference, and please do so quick. I know the seats are filling up quickly. So, and thank you all very much for watching this interview. And if you have any comments, and please let me know on my website or on YouTube, or just email me. And that would be great. And again, thank you so much, Mr. Cadwell, and share your story. And I think, it's very inspiring for so many people, and really, really appreciate your time. And I understand with all these teaching classes, you must be very busy, and but you take your valuable time and to share stories with us. Thank you so much. And
thank you. My honor, my privilege, and my real pleasure to sit with you today. Thank you for just your interest in reaching out. It's just really, it's an honor to be able to share my story and to tell the world about my teachers, and to carry on our legacy and share the benefits of our martial art.
thank you.